Hello, everybody. Um, well, I'm not going to lie, my AI tool went a little crazy on this one, I must say. But the point is to introduce this interesting aspect of our brain health, which is the brain-gut relation. And this is relevant to all of us. It's becoming more and more relevant to people with Parkinson's as the research is starting to increase in that area. And I do think it's going to become a very, very big area of research. And it was something I wasn't that familiar with. So I thought, well, it's time I familiarize myself. There's a few people from across New Zealand who have told me a bit about this. And some are even doing some treatments along the lines of gut health. So I thought it's wise just to bring this to people's attention in case you're interested in learning a bit more. Now, I'm obviously not an expert in this at all. And please also remember that I'm not a medical doctor, so nothing that I give here is prescriptive. But this is meant to be an introduction of the gut microbiome and the gut brain relation. And I do think it's important to watch the space. So you can see in this front page here, where my AI went pretty kind of crazy, but I think makes the strong point that diversity in our gut microbiome is like diverse microbes and so forth actually gives us a more resilient ecosystem for not only our gut health, but our gut brain health. And I'll tell you a bit more about that relationship. And there's a lot of things we can do to increase that diversity. The whole point is that we want to have a lot of different types of beneficial bacteria working together, and it can keep our homeostasis, our whole balance better. And here I'm talking really about the body, the cognition, emotional balance, and basically a large system with many, many different components. So there's going to be more and more research into this area. And again, we should probably watch this space. I'll tell you a little bit more about the recommended diet, at least according to the research, which is very similar to the Mediterranean diet. I'm hoping it turns out that exercise is a really good thing for it. And the research seems to be suggesting that, although there's not a lot of conclusive evidence quite yet. Some of this research is relatively new. Staying hydrated, and exercising, sleeping well, and managing our stress. And you'll realize that these things are things we've heard before. So these are general health types of tips that seem to be helping brain health broadly. Also keeps our immune system stronger, gives us better mood, a little bit more energy, vitality, and we think, and the research world thinks this, that it might support long-term kind of well-being as well. So when we're talking about the gut-brain relation, what's interesting is that the intestinal tract, the digestive tract, is actually communicating with the brain, and the vagus nerve, which is cranial nerve 10, has a very, very big role here. It's the sort of link between brain and gut. It's not a direct link the whole way, but the brain is sending information to the gut. So you can imagine that information relative to stress and emotions, but also good things, doesn't have to be just stress, thoughts, those things, as we know from our phenomenological experience, those can or seem to affect our digestion, our appetite, stomach emptying, bowel activity, and so forth. So the brain is talking to the gut. So the information is going in that direction, but it's also going in the opposite direction, which is the gut to the brain. So there's signals that go through the vagus nerve and hormones and substances that are produced by the gut. the gut microbes, more specifically, are sent to the brain. And those can, of course, influence mood, stress, and some aspects of cognition and behavior and so forth. So the important thing is that this is a bi-directional kind of information transfer or pathway. The vagus nerve itself, cranial nerve 10, extends from the brain stem, sort of in the middle of the brain. We've had a picture of that in one of our previous videos. You might look back to the digestive tract, but from the brain stem also. So that one was going down in that direction. From the brain stem, there's also pathways that go up to various different places in the brain and eventually to a higher order areas of the brain. It's not just one path, it's a few different ones. So again, supporting the notion that the gut-brain relation is a bidirectional relation. Now that's really, really important. It also suggests that we may have everyday things that we can do to influence that in a more positive way. And I mentioned a few on the previous slide, but I think that's always a very encouraging thing. For example, if a person has a particular condition, let's take, for example, Parkinson's, where the substantia nigra is well known as being a very, very important part of the etiology of Parkinson's disease, where the dopamine neurons reside, and they have some differences in their processes than in the brain without Parkinson's. But what's interesting is that's a very small part of the brain. And if we are able to affect systems that are more global systems of the brain, then we've got other ways to affect the brain and try to bring the brain in balance. So on our everyday, day to day, it could maybe optimize the brain health that we've got. And generally speaking, the brain health that people have, regardless of their age or their condition. So just to summarize that little bit, evidence suggests an important role in the gut-brain connection in Parkinson's as well. And there's more about that. And at the end of this little short video, I'll actually give you a link to find a very, very nice primer kind of paper. It's a bit scientific-y, there's a bit of jargon, but it's a paper from a Chinese group that really gives a very, very nice overview of the gut-brain connection and the research and also some of the treatments that are now being trialed in various places, including some research that's being done with people who have Parkinson's. So exercise, diet, sleep, stress management are all being investigated in research across a number of different laboratories across the world. And, the hope really is that something like exercise could act on the whole network of multiple systems. And I've said that before. It's one of the reasons why I think exercise is such an important one. Firstly, I don't know of any negative effects other than if you fatigue yourself to too much to an extent. Always you want to do things in moderation. But in the case of exercise, it actually seems that more exercise the better. But again, within reason, because we all do have some limits, every single one of us. But hopefully, we will learn more about that in future research. And again, I think we should watch that space. The notion is that multiple systems are involved simultaneously. So it's not just the dopamine neurons we're talking about. Healthy behaviors likely affect the functioning of the whole brain gut immune network. Now, some people have, some researchers and dietitians and nutritionists and others have recommended a diet. It's very much like the Mediterranean diet, as I suggested before. High in vegetables, fruits, legumes, that's beans and lentils, chickpeas, and so forth. Whole grains, nuts and seeds, and fermented foods, which is like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut. Things are particularly good for that microbe kind of environment. So in this one, again, I think my AI tool did go a little bit crazy, but I do like what turned out here, but a lot of words. To be perfectly honest, that is a very, very big meal that this person is eating, but this person might be playing, hours of table tennis a day, needs a big meal, but nonetheless, it's a very, very healthy looking meal. So there again, it's just a reminder of some of the recommended foods. And that's sort of across the board for all people. We all wish that every single person on the planet would have access to healthy foods, and that's a whole nother bigger issue. But ideally, if we can try to introduce or continue to eat as many of those types of foods that we're able to incorporate into our diet, hopefully that would be kind of a good thing for us. So again, you got the fruits, the healthy fats like avocados, olive oil, the fats that come in the nuts, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and so forth. But be sure you get things into your diet that you really enjoy, because enjoyment, as you well know, is a huge factor of life. So please don't take this to mean, or even for me to suggest, we shouldn't be eating what we do enjoy, because, life is life. But those are some of the suggestions. The foods provide a wide range of fibers, and they might support a more diverse microbial ecosystem. I'm being tentative with my words here, for the reason that the research suggests it, but I'm just on the verge of reading all that research and trying to read it carefully. So I don't want to overstate the research. But from my understanding, there's no specific Parkinson's diet that's been conclusively established. And if you find that there is, please let me know. But there is considerable research that's ongoing in this area. So there's ongoing exercise intervention studies that include microbiome measures, and that is particularly interesting to me, particularly in the context of our table tennis exercise group, and just the notion that exercise seems a really, really good one. Um, I'm a little biased because I'm kind of an exercise addict a little bit, but yes, that's another watch this space. Now, for a very, very interesting read, you can get this article, you can download this article. It's publicly available for open access. Rather than giving you this really, really, really long link that you would not be able to cut and paste from a video, I'm just going to suggest, and if you look at the last line here on this page, if you go to medtechnews.uk, so medtechnews.uk, and if you search then, so there'll be a search line or a little search box, search for the gut brain axis. Okay, so again, medtechnews.uk, search for the gut brain axis. And there's a research report there. And I found it to be a very, very interesting overview of the gut brain axis, its importance, and also some of the treatments that are related to that. So that's where I'm going to stop here, but I am going to put more on this on future videos, some that I'm working on right now. So it won't be too long till you see more of those, but this is just sort of an introduction. All right. And I do want to thank the people who have opened my eyes to this area. Thank you very much. It's an incredibly interesting area, and I really look forward to learning more. Bye.